Welcome back to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I am your host, Jesse Ewell, and today we're going to be talking about the habit of prayer. I have a special guest today, Mr. Brett Thomas, who is a health and lifestyle professional, sales specialist, wellness advocate, success expert, mental wellness coach, and he's also a former sales executive for 25 years with one of the nation's top medical device companies. And he has some of the best hair of anybody that I know.
Coming from that side of the desk, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So hey, man, I'm excited to have you on the podcast today. And I really want to jump right into, you and your story. But like, so you work for this company for 25 years and, you obviously made this leap to go do your own thing. But what was it like, prior to, kind of tell me a little bit about your backstory and how you got into what you're doing. I know you went to the University of Auburn, but did you play sports as a kid and growing up, or like, what was that like?
Yeah, so I grew up in Atlanta and made the decision not to play college ball because I wasn't really big enough to go play at a big D1 school. And
Okay.
So I thought, you know what, I really would rather go have fun and be a good student versus a good athlete at some small school. And I know I'm going to go pro.
So what did you play in high school?
I played linebacker, and then
Okay,
also I played football, baseball, and soccer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, I grew up playing sports ever since the age of 5 and kind of drove me to do whatever else I do in life now too. Kind of take the same attitude about that. If you're going to do it right, do it successfully and do it to your best.
Sure. So you play sports in high school and you get to a point where you're like, hey, I'm just, I don't have the size to play at the next level. And so then you went into college, you went to Auburn, right?
Yep.
What was that like? And what did you experience there that kind of started your career?
Yeah, so I chose Auburn because so many of my buddies that graduated high school from, they all went to University of Georgia, right?
Okay.
And I didn't want to go back to high school by just going to college. So ironically, I picked out a school that was within, a decent amount of drive time from Atlanta, and wanted to go to a school that had a good business school. And ironically, I wound up pledging a fraternity with a bunch of guys that we all hated each other in high school because we all played football against each other in high-level schools. And then we all wound up becoming like really, really solid friends. So that was great. And then graduated from Auburn after 5 years with a degree in economics, had a dual minor in management and marketing, and then got out of there and went to work for the Gallo Winery down in Southern Florida.
Nice.
Did that for about 1.5 years. And then the company I worked for the last 25 years hired me away from them, moved me back to Atlanta, and I just basically went through an iteration of massive growth with that company. I was very fortunate. I was able to be on the sales exec team that drove that company from $400 million when I started. When I left last year, they'll eclipse right at $14 billion. So it was a good ride.
Okay. And what was what did you do there?
Great question, because I did like everything. I started out as a sales rep, and I went into management after about 2 years and took a bunch of different levels of management gigs. And then finally, my last 2.5 years, they asked me to run the integrated healthcare division. And so I really was responsible for closing large deals at the big teaching facilities, the places that were usually tied to a university. So they had the hospitals as well as the university tied together, like Vanderbilt, for example, or Wake Forest Baptist, places like that.
Okay, nice. And did you move around the country? Did you, were you gone a lot? Were you away from your wife and kids? Like, how did that work out?
We didn't have to move around a lot. However, I was gone. I was pretty much on the road anywhere between 1 to maybe even 5 nights a week.
Okay.
And when we got married, I had already been with the company for a long time, and Brooke was used to that, right? However, one of the reasons that I did what I did last year and left that company is we always had the desire to work together.
Sure.
And ironically, a lot of people say, well, when your kids are younger, that's when you want to be around. I felt like it was the opposite for me and for us. When our kids were younger, I was going through I can be away from them because Brooke always managed the household and that's when she started her business. when the kids were younger, and she did an amazing job. She's an amazing woman, and always managed the household and everything else that surrounded the house, at the top level, right? And so I was able to be gone. It wasn't that big of a deal. However, we always wanted to work together. And now that our kids are a little older now, going into middle and high school, and on top of moving out to California, felt like it was the best time to do it, because now I want to be home. I want to, date my daughters. I want to be home a lot more. And then I never could do that when the kids were younger.
All right. So we're going to go back a little bit, and, I'm going to help you, kind of guide you through this place. But you work at a company for 25 years. What were the things that you didn't like about doing that?
The reason I stayed there, I'll go backwards, and I'll tell you, first of all, the reason I stayed there, it was an entrepreneurial atmosphere, and it had that as the culture, because that's the culture that I grew up in as a kid. My parents owned restaurants and liquor stores when I grew up, and so I always had that in my DNA. And the company that I worked for so long, it allowed us to do that. We could write our own contracts, do our own gig, and really I just got to run my own show.
Right.
And so that was really what drove me to stay there for so long.
Okay. And, you walk away literally, what, a year ago or about a year and a half ago?
No, it's only been since August of 19.
So you walk away. What was that like for you to walk away from that?
It was probably 3 years too long. Looking back, I really had the nudge and the push. It's like, I say to my wife all the time, the Holy Spirit was pushing me, man, you got to do something else. It is time. It is time. So I hung on probably about 2 to 3 years longer than I really should have. So by the time I left, it was one of the best moves, both mentally and physically, that I could have ever done.
Okay.
Like I said, our kids were at an age where I really was ready to go, and our marriage and our businesses were starting to really take off, and it was time for me to do it, and time for us to really take the leap and work together full time, which of course that enabled us to move to California.
Okay. And so you're now in California. What has that transition been like? Just, being out here, I know, yes, you have the sun, you have the beaches, you have all this stuff, but you don't have that security of your old company. You made a major transition. You're working with your wife. What has it been like in the last 6-7 months since you've been here?
I'll give you 2 answers. The California part, like you said, it is amazing. I mean, it's sunny and 70 virtually every day.
Right.
I can go surf with my kids. We can drive to go ski in an hour and a half. I mean, all of the geography and the weather and the people we've met out here, including you and Katie as a great example, are amazing. Whoever tries to give Southern Cal a bad rap with the people, you've never been here.
Right.
Because the people here are amazing. So that's the one part of the answer. The second part of the answer is moving out from my job without the security, working full time with a true entrepreneurial spirit and drive to take our companies to the next level has definitely been a challenge, because you don't have the security of the 401k, of the monthly sort of guaranteed income,
Right.
I mean, because I had to go kill what I ate every single year for 25 years, but you still have that structure of the corporate behind you. So jumping into this, with nothing but, both hands, both feet, all in. I mean, we are totally in the pool. We are soaking wet at this point. So it's been awesome, but it's also been a challenge to be very, very candid. I mean, Brooke and I are 2 people that are very good at being the boss. And, when 2 people lead, no one leads. And so we've had to really look inside and say, okay, these are the lanes of traffic that we're going to need to stay in. Yeah. And so we tried to do a really thorough job in assigning roles and responsibilities. What are you good at? What do you enjoy? What are you not good at? What do you not enjoy? And really try to stay aligned in that manner.
Okay. So how do you guys do that?
We get up every day and start the day off with the power hour, the millionaire morning, or whatever you want to call it. I'm a big believer in letting the Holy Spirit guide you through prayer. Okay. And I try to get up every single day. And yes, we always train, but first thing we always do is read in the morning and get on our knees and say prayers together. Okay. Because it's the only way that we can start our day the right way. And I could map it and tell you the days that we got rushed and didn't do that. my day falls apart. And I always look back the next day and go, well, that's exactly why. I can pinpoint it every time.
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I think, even inside of couples I've coached is like, we talk about this thing of co-creation, with your spouse, and me and Katie have worked together for, going on like 15 years. But most people are like, man, I want my wife to work with me, or I want my husband to work with me. And it's like, okay, well, maybe you don't, because you don't know what's about to happen. But dude, to go from 25 years, you're on your own, you're doing these things, to all of a sudden now you're in this dynamic with your wife that you've never been in a new place. I know you say like, hey, this is the biggest struggle, but the thing that you do that I'm really inspired by and listening to you is like, hey, I make sure every single morning, no matter what, like whether you guys were fighting the night before or not, you're going to pray together. And what you notice is the days that you don't do it, your day kind of goes to chaos. And I think that's really powerful for you to say that, is like, hey, I'm aware when we don't do it, here's what, happens. And it may not happen once, but if I do it over and over, it's going to create chaos in my life. And so, what does it take to be committed to something like that? Because I got to be honest with you, man. Like, I don't know if I could do that. One, I leave the house at like 5:30, 6 a.m. and, my wife's not up for at least 2 hours. But two, I think of that as like climbing a huge mountain when you tell me this. So how did you get into doing this?
First of all, it helps that we both like to get up early.
Right.
I wouldn't say that we're morning people per se, but we both really enjoy getting up early because we know ultimately what the fact is. And the fact is that our day always proves to be better if we do that first thing in the morning.
Sure.
So, it's honestly just becoming a closer and more dedicated follower of God, and putting that, we have 3 pillars of success in our marriage. And we put God first, we put the marriage second, we put the kids third, and then everything else falls up underneath the kids, depending on what's going on in the day.
Sure.
I'll be the first one to tell you that thing gets flipped upside down every now and then.
Yeah.
And that's when stuff does start to kind of become a little bit unraveled. And that's why you got to take a step back and go, okay, why is this going on? And it's relatively easy to always point back to one thing.
Right.
We didn't set our intentions the right way. I didn't read the Bible or read whatever inspirational book that I'm into, that day or that week. And we didn't get on our knees and pray that morning. It always points back to that same thing.
Okay. And so this is kind of your guiding light every single morning, is like, hey, we start this out, we're probably like 95% everything's going to go good for the day.
Yeah. God is our CEO, and he's my compass. And that's exactly what I always try to follow.
Okay. Awesome, man. So what are some other habits? You talk a little bit about this power hour, millionaire morning. Like, what are some other habits that you do every single morning? Yeah.
Outside of the first, hour, I always try to make sure we train together when we can. I'm more of a CrossFitter than Brooke, and she's more of an F45 person than I am, but we try to merge those desires and those different styles of training. And
sure.
We don't always do it together, but we try to do at least one or the other together as much as we can.
Yeah. Katie likes F45. I can handle that about once a week. Part of my problem is I know too much about training to where I can go in anywhere and I'll immediately pick apart everything.
Yeah.
Whether it's CrossFit, F45 or whatever. And that'll immediately kind of like take my attention elsewhere. But what is it like, to not only pray together, work out together, but just be around your wife in business all the time? Like, how do you guys actually separate that?
We don't.
Okay.
And I say that and I laugh because since we've moved to Cali back in July, we have spent an enormous amount of time together that we've never done before. And so it's been awesome. I can't say that we don't ever like disagree or don't get sideways with each other, because that's just the facts.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we always come back together and figure things out. And but it's been great. I would have probably never gone to F45 unless I know that's important to her, because she wants to train with me. And this is probably the same thing she would say. She's not a big CrossFit fan, but she goes in there and throws a bunch of barbells around.
Okay.
And it's good for me.
Yeah, I want to see this sometime. I want to see Brooke doing CrossFit.
She's the only girl in the gym that wears gloves.
Nice. Yeah. Well, my wife does that too, but she's got like bedazzle on the gloves. So, well, hey, so like when you're in this place of, now I'm an entrepreneur, I got no security other than, obviously, an entrepreneur is you can create, your own security, but like, as you're kind of navigating through this, what are you finding that you're passionate about as you've kind of found this new identity in yourself?
At this stage in the game, I am super passionate about building her brand, which ultimately provides a lot of revenue and security for our family, because that's really the dynamic we went into. I've been really comfortable doing my own gig for 25 years.
Right.
But it's also a very comfortable and satisfying, gratifying position to be in, knowing that, she's already been building her brand with her masterminds, her live events. Now she's released a podcast, which I was fortunate to be able to help, manage and really be the guy behind the scenes to make sure it launched on time with the right amount of everything. Right. And so that's really what's driving me. Because I'm, great, and I'm not saying I'm a great leader, but leaders serve. And so right now I'm very satisfied to be in a position to serve her, serve the family. And then also we have the kind of what she has started that I am working in full time now, as well as our network marketing business. I mean, we're doing Amare together, and that's the leading and the only mental wellness company. And that's one of the big reasons we moved out here to California, to be basically 8 miles away from their corporate office. And that's been another amazing experience that we get to work together in that space as well.
Yeah. And I gotta be honest with you. I gotta admire you for pushing your wife's brand. Because I know a lot of guys, and I'm thinking about myself, like, could I actually step back and do that? And I don't know if I could, not because I don't want to, but just because that means, stepping back from what I'm doing. But, that's super admirable for you to do that. And not only that, but to actually like push your wife forward. And I see, gifts that you have and gifts that your wife have, that you guys are really like learning how to mesh together and really like empower each other to just, continue to go. I think one of the cool things is, being able to have you on a podcast, or watching you be on other people's podcasts, and watching you kind of like rise up in your own ways. And I seen a couple weeks ago where you were speaking, I think at Amare, and I heard you did an amazing job, but it was cool to be like, okay, like he's rising up, in his own way, now. And I think that's really cool to see that. And that's from creating a different identity than, hey, the guy that you were for 25 years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, thank you. And that's probably another indicator of me staying in that corporate gig for 2 to 3 years longer than I should have.
Sure.
Because it's what I'm doing now, yes, working with her in the network marketing company. Yes, working with her to build her brand. I mean, it's truly satisfying, and I'm grateful to do it.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things is you're always excited. Brooke's always excited when we see you guys. But I got really excited to see you guys both on TikTok with your daughter. My daughter couldn't handle but not showing me this. And hopefully I can see some of these dance moves sometimes. But
is this the like big butts one?
Yeah. So, and that's I think it was Sir Mix-a-Lot.
I was actually surprised it didn't go viral. I was expecting 400,000 to 500,000 views, but we didn't get that.
Yeah, well, I think you have to you can't have a private account and go viral. So, but one of the cool things that I've watched you get into now is surfing. Like I love surfing, although, I haven't been a whole lot in the last 2 months, but what has that shift been like for you since you've kind of been into doing that?
Yeah. So I need to take you up on your continual offer to go with you, because part of me is scared because you're probably going to just crush me and take me out the waves I probably shouldn't be on. But yeah, so another great example of why we love California. So surfing to me is another thing that I never really did a whole lot on the East Coast. Dabbled in it when I was younger, but great way to get in touch with nature. Great way for me to be able to get out with my 12-year-old because she loves to surf.
Right.
And another great way for, guys like you and I to connect. And for other guys too that haven't even met yet that I'm sure I will in the very near future.
Yeah. Did you go surfing a day ago or 2 days ago?
We went to Laguna Beach on Sunday. It was awesome out there in 3 mil wetsuits.
Did you do a lesson?
She did. I just did my own gig.
Nice.
Just kind of watched her.
And I haven't surfed out in Laguna yet. That's I haven't been that far south. So you're going to have to come a little bit farther or I haven't been that far north. You're going to have to come a little bit farther this way.
Well, everybody says do it now because when the summer hits, forget about surfing out there. There's so many people.
Yeah. You just go earlier and then you don't have to worry about it.
Well, it was awesome. 3 mil wetsuit. The water is 58 degrees. And man, once you get out there, it was awesome.
And I'll be honest with you, man. I went like 3 weeks ago. The waves were so big that I couldn't even get out. And I was a little bit embarrassed of myself. It was kind of like the walk of shame going back.
Yeah, we surfed in Costa Rica about 3 weeks ago, and the waves that I had to deal with out there, same thing. I was exhausted by the time I even got out to the break.
Yeah, so that's awesome, man. So every morning you're praying, with your wife. Are you guys doing anything at night in a similar fashion, or you just do in the morning?
Usually not at night, but listen, if something is on the grid, like our daughter had a little bit of a stomach bug yesterday, so we are absolutely like praying over her and asking for like a miracle of healing because she was in bad shape. I thought we were gonna be taken to the hospital. So things like that, will come up. But typically, we really try to focus on getting the morning started off right through our prayer sequence. Okay,
so you're all about, hey, first thing in the morning, let's crush it. Let's start with prayer. What time do you get up every day?
4:30.
4:30. And Brooke gets up?
Same.
Yeah, Brooke threw me a text at like 4:30 the other morning. I was like, oh my God, like I'm not getting out of bed yet.
Yeah. Now we did it on the East Coast, but now since we still have a lot of business on the East Coast, by the time I get up, I'm like, dude, these people already been up and they were having breakfast.
Yeah, because it's like 7:30 East Coast.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a factor there, but we like getting up early, getting started off the day.
Okay, nice. So what is you're working for? You guys are both working for Amare. Like, what drives you to want to do this mental wellness thing and in this specific company?
The mental wellness space is now becoming a relatively easy term to talk about because, so many people when you were raised, you learn how to take care of your physical health, but not your mental health. But now through products and programs and all the people that we're able to help, it's an amazing experience to be able to support and promote this platform. And yes, you get paid doing it. But the biggest thing, like anything else you do, you got to have a drive and a passion and a purpose behind it.
Right.
And it's really trying to help people with everything that we have.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what is kind of your plans heading into 2020? Are you going to be doing anything different? Are you going to be doing more of anything or less? Or like what's on the plan for you, man?
That is a great question that we've been talking about a lot over the last couple of weeks. Kind of like I was being pulled away from that corporate job.
Right.
Now I'm starting to kind of get the itch to really start working on, if you want to call it my own personal brand, but really kind of go back into what made me successful for those 25 years in the medical world.
Okay.
And really start maybe focusing on some individual private coaching. And I'm trying to figure out like, okay, do I go back into that medical space and really try to help guys that are trying to get into those big facilities that they haven't been able to crack? So I'm evaluating what's the best position to take right now.
So a little coaching, consulting.
Yeah. I mean, but no travel.
No travel. How about they come to you, man?
Either come to me or everything's going to be on Zoom, FaceTime, whatever is going to make it work where I don't have to get in a car or a plane.
Okay, nice. So
I used to love having airline miles and being like titanium with Marriott. Now I don't care. I just want to make enough money where I can still ride in first class, but I don't have to pay for it. I mean, now I want to make enough money where I can pay for it, or stay in the Marriott at the high level. But I don't want I think I stayed in the Marriott the last year of my corporate gig 78 nights. So that's one of the things. Like you look at how many nights that is away from your family times X amount of years. It's a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the last 2 years before we moved here, I spent 20 weeks and like 22 weeks each year here before we actually moved here.
Yeah. So you get it.
Yeah, it got to the point where it was just, I mean, as nice as the Surf and Sand is and all these other hotels are, it just got to the place where it was, it was time away from my family.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up this episode, how would someone get in contact with you?
Well, my Instagram feed is Brett C. Thomas 1, and you can find me on Facebook at Brett Thomas as well. And then you can always contact Brooke. I mean, I'm the back end guy of her website right now, so you can always contact Brooke at brookthomas.com.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to give you a couple questions before we end this.
Just like rapid fire?
Yeah, these are kind of rapid fire. What is your favorite sport?
Football.
Okay. What is your favorite style of workout?
CrossFit.
Okay. What is your favorite food?
I'll give you two answers. I love grilled fish, but I also love pizza.
Okay. And what is one thing about you that is kind of a secret?
I always wanted to play guitar, but have not done it yet. But it's on the schedule.
Okay.
And my daughter and I are going to start taking some lessons together.
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, hey, thank you for being on here. It's a pleasure to have you and Brooke on the last two episodes. I would just want to thank you for being here.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Yeah. So if you guys are looking to connect further with a group of like-minded people, join myself and so many others in the Habit-Based Lifestyle Secrets group on Facebook, where we'll be dropping daily habits to help you live to your full potential. If you want to be one of our next case studies and begin living this habit-based lifestyle, feel free to reach out to me, Jesse at habitbasedlifestyle.com. Until next episode, have a great day.